e-learning market is set to be worth around $3 billion, give or take. The number of online users in India, we're told over and over again, among the highest in the world, second perhaps only when it comes to China and perhaps the US. This is, of course, one area that we are told is going to be the game changer. We can get all those who are aspirational and hungry for the best education, for the best skilling, this kind of an opportunity, then we could be looking at a whole new India. Where do things stand? What do we know to sort of make the most of the opportunity that we have at present? That's what we're looking at. A special panel with me. Thanks all for taking our time to be here this morning. Let me start by introducing them right away. Ika Chaturvedi Banerjee, CEO of Future Learning, with us, as is Sandeep Bhavna, India Country Head, Khan Academy, Kabir Chadha, India Country Manager, Coursera, and joining us from Mumbai, Krishna Kumar, founder, Simply Learn. Thanks all so much again for being with us. Ma'am, if I could start by asking you, we are told over and over again that how you have a demographic dividend. Look at the numbers that you have, look at your young population, youngest country in the world by 2020 and all of that. But the concern is that you've got to make sure that the dividend doesn't turn into a disaster. Education is going to be one key way to do that. How much of a role do you believe e-learning is going to play in that?
While e-learning provides a solution enough to ensure that there is content that reaches right down to the last mile, it does not necessarily substitute for instructor-led training, at least right down where it matters. So while there is digital penetration, there's fascination with technology, a lot of it doesn't necessarily, in fact, ride on the internet at all, but rides on preloaded content on tabs. We've actually found it most useful to train the instructors on the module and have them roll it out along with the tabs and the e-learning content.
Sure. So you're saying they both need to go hand in hand?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. And you know, the important point that you make, that there's going to be an instructor, you've got to train the instructor, but the challenge then again comes down to where are these instructors, where are these qualified, trained instructors? That's the one reason why when we talk about skilling, we are where we are, because we haven't got the right people to skill. So how much of a challenge is that?
That's actually my biggest challenge. So when I run my business and I'm training in a village, in a remote village in Uttar Pradesh, my challenge is that I actually take in a trainer, train him from a Gorakhpur or an Aligarh or a Lucknow, whichever is the largest, closest town, and park my instructor in the city, in the village, for the skilling education to happen. Having said that, and because part of that skilling education is also linked to jobs, we do find the hunger very, very, very high. So the youth in rural India are actually lapping it up. They want more education, they want more instruction, they want more technology, they respond much better to technology, especially if they know that the payoff at the end of that, is a job, is a degree, is a certification.
Right.
So you're right, instructors are a challenge, but it's a growing breed. So in fact, a lot of our students who actually get skilled then turn around and become instructors with us.
Right, right.
So we'll cross that threshold. That, if you ask me, is frankly the only challenge left. So we've crossed the threshold. So we've been through stages of various challenges. We've been through the challenge on just the hardware, just the hardware being available. We've been through challenge on content and almost cracked it. We've been through the challenge on vernacular and making it accessible and understandable for our audience. I think the last mile left is really cracking a solid set of instructors that I can frankly export.
Right, right. Yeah, because that's what it's going to all come down to, like you said, sort of this last mile challenge. Sandeep Bhavna, the challenge, of course, for you are different. You've got the Khan Academy, where we know that acceptance of the brand, of course, being huge. We've seen how many Indian students, I'm told, one of the largest groups getting onto Khan Academy courses. What about India and sort of getting the product to India has taken you aback?
India, as you rightly said, it's one of the largest user bases for Khan Academy, and yet it is a very, very complex market. So our user segment is primarily school students and teachers and early college goers. And if you look at that, there are so many languages and curriculums that exist. One product which can satisfy the needs of all, and we're not even talking about connectivity and other issues.
Yeah, we get into that. Yeah.
So that's one huge challenge, and I think one of the ways to figure out would be to see how we can how we can overcome some of these challenges rather than trying to do it for every single use case. On the content side is the first area where we are putting a lot of effort as well. Getting our content which is adapted to Indian curriculum filling in gaps, localizing it so that students can understand and use it. I think that's the first step that we are working on. So far, the usage has been of the product as it exists in the United States. So yeah.
Right. And the fact that, would it be fair to say the fact that you are focusing on the Indian market just shows that how India is sort of ticking all the right boxes for Khan Academy?
India is a huge opportunity for something like Khan Academy. And I would echo one of the things that Eka said about this blending between physical and virtual. Again, we have huge challenges of classrooms which are inadequately, don't have enough infrastructure, teachers and all of that. We feel something like a product like Khan Academy in that space can actually empower that physical environment. So for instance, if you're a student and you go, you study something during the day, you go back to your home, you can look at that resource and brush up your knowledge, take some exercises. If you're a teacher, you can use a resource to figure out how to teach that better. So, so for us, I mean, that blend between physical and virtual is very, very essential.
Right. Kabir Chadha, Eka there just mentioned the fact that there is this hunger. There is this hunger all around. It's this hunger to learn, to start off. There's this hunger to skill. There's this constant hunger to skill up around us at work. There's especially the new generation that's coming in, constantly hungry to add something to the plate, to add more knowledge, to sort of add more skill sets. That's where Coursera comes in. But again, if I were to ask you, the one thing that you wish India had, or you wish that you could have on offer, you could have used your advantage and therefore the advantage of the vast number of people who use your products, what would it be?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think before answering though, I would like to underscore that hunger point that you made, right? The biggest category of learners on Coursera today, and we have 1.4 million of them and growing quickly, are people who are looking to get the skills that they need to either get their first job or to get promoted or do better at their existing jobs, right? And I think that the reason that hunger is there is because we're in a place today where upward mobility, doing better in your career is such a front and center focus.
And you've got so many role models, I guess.
We've got
that
so
it
many
becomes
role
so
models.
aspirational
Absolutely.
to them, therefore.
Absolutely. I think in terms of the one thing that I wish was there, really it's about connectivity. Almost half of Coursera users use Coursera courses on the go. We are accessible anywhere, anytime, and we have a fully functional mobile app on iPhone and on Android. But if you actually look at the numbers, only about 250 million people today in India out of our population of more than 1 billion have access to the internet. And a much smaller percentage of that have access to good, fast internet with large data plans. I think I see that as the biggest constraining factor for our industry today.
Mr. Krishna Kumar, if I could go up to you and ask you now, we're looking at, of course, the IT sector being one area which sort of really stood up to the plate first. They were quick on certification. We as a nation love our certification anyway, which works really well. We'll get into quality of certification in just a bit. But what is the one thing that your experience has taught you about the Indian market that perhaps all those watching could find interesting?
See, in general, when we speak about reskilling, the entire focus goes on skilling the people who are underprivileged, skilling those who do not have access to internet, and somehow we miss the picture that we already have a large working population which is largely underemployed. And that's the market that Simply Learn is focusing on. We help people learn new skills and get ahead in their career. And so far, what we have seen in India market is that it's doing pretty well, but still there is a lack of awareness. While I see others talking about that a lot of people have hunger to learn new things and move on, I think we have not seen that as much as we wish we could. A large part of working professionals are still relying on their employers training them, and that's how they get ahead in their career.
Right.
But I think as more and more people start realizing that they need to think about their career on their own, they need to plan their future growth, start doing a lot of courses which are available online, I think it will do magic to their careers. So in my view, I think a lot of people who are already employed, they need to start thinking about their career, and we don't see them as much hunger as we expected them to have.
Right. Perhaps because you sort of get lulled into a sort of a sense of security once you do have that job, Ika, that, you've got it, at least you have this. So I guess the hunger then very different. But would it be fair then to say, Ika, in your experience, that there's no really one size fits all? Your experience in the sort of rural or semi-rural areas is very different from the kind of experience that Mr. Krishna Kumar is talking about. And we can have products that work for everybody, despite our numbers.
I completely agree with you, Natasha. And just before we started, Kabir, Sandeep and I were chatting about the same thing. So there are levels, right? So and as I love structures and I love pyramids. So there's a pyramid which is the pre-employment pyramid, which is the source skill place pyramid, which is where majority of the youth of India is 18 to 30 years old. That's a skilling pyramid. That's one level. Where e-learning, despite connectivity, despite challenges,
has a role to play.
Has a role to play. Helps them get the first job.
Okay.
Then there's that large chunk of junior management.
Okay.
Which I suppose is also where, which is the space that I think Mr. Krishna Kumar is also talking about, which really is that space where I'm lulled into a mild sense of security because I have my first job, but it starts hitting.
Right.
It takes some time, but then it catches up to say, okay, now how do I move up? Where do I go next? What happens next, etc. Then you move into mid-management. And I can tell you this because I was sharing with Kabir that I'm a very regular Coursera user, or at least used to be till a couple of years ago. Where once you've reached...
Talk about validation for the product. And that's a good one, yeah.
Oh, and my daughters are extremely excited that I'm actually talking to Sandeep here because they love the Khan Academy.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, I have to say the Khan Academy modules, even I've been going them closely for my daughters to see how they fit. So, yeah.
I know. And I'm suddenly feeling very unvalidated here, but that's all right. So then there's the mid-management, which is really where the Courseras of the world come in, where upskilling comes in, where, going back to college, and the stakes become higher. And then there's, of course, leadership training. At the leadership training level or at the senior management level, which is where we do a lot of programs, especially ones that integrate ancient wisdom with management structures, mythology with structures. At the leadership level, e-learning becomes even more crucial because you don't necessarily want to be seen in a classroom.
That's right.
So the modus operandi, actually there is one-on-one coaching with their senior coaches. And then there is e-learning modules because I'm far more comfortable, allows me flexibility of time, of resources.
Right.
So if you ask me, e-learning actually ends up playing a role across. So there's no one size fits all. There's all kinds of courses that run there. So right from skilling base level to academic courses to to upskilling and self-development courses to pure knowledge gaining courses to certificate courses to self-development right at the top courses. So it really is a huge, huge, huge space.